Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Filmmaker Q&A for the mega big shorts block that was the streaming exclusive shorts. Not everyone could make it due to work commitments and time zone wonkiness, but I'm thrilled that we have four of our filmmakers with us here today. We have Renetta Amador from Processing, Jason Ewert from The Thing in the Tub, Ricky Santos and Tanya Chow from The Stairway to Hell, and Craig Kruger from The Creeping Darkness. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Your films are spectacular. I just want to say that normally we would be showing films on all three screens of the Hollywood Theater, and this year, because we were only on one, we didn't get to show as many movies as we would have liked in the theater. So streaming really kind of allowed us to present as all the content that we would normally have presented in the theater. So thank you for sharing your films with our audience. They were really fun. Stairway to Hell was really fun because there's this great idea of extraliminal spaces in Lovecraft stories and in cosmic horror in general. Tell us a little bit about your short film. It does, there's not a lot to it, but it's very effective. So I'm interested to know like how that came about.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep my answers short since we're jumping around to a blank screen with my name on it. But we really wanted to make a quote unquote COVID movie using bare minimums, and I was a fan of the films, and the extra dimensional sort of entity that made and produced. And it was just about that time where we watched the second one where we just were inspired and we just went home and started filming.
Nice. Is that your child's onesie that's on the stairs?
No, we don't have one, but I figured I do have a new nephew, and I figured we're cheap, so we could just give it to him once this is all done.
Yeah, we had one, but we lost it in like this interdimensional portal. I don't know. It might have helped inspire.
Okay. It's where all the spare socks are.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, we were just joined by Stephanie Begg, and Stephanie's film was Holes. Or no, I'm sorry. Stephanie's film was Echo Pines. There was another.
That's right.
There's another Stephanie from Australia. Sorry, I got that mixed up. So Echo Pines. Excellent. Thank you and welcome. We were just chatting about our films. That we love. Our audience loves the short films. So you guys are the rock stars of the festival with all of your short films. And I'm gonna scoot over to Renetta and talk about Processing a little bit. Before we started the chat, you were talking about the location for Processing, and that sounds fascinating. So I want to hear all that again.
When the location to be in Processing was actually what I would call number one on the call sheet. It was the star, because it was actually a living, breathing entity. You just don't realize that till the end. It took us quite a long time to figure out where we could do this. We started out thinking that we would just get it, rent an empty warehouse and make it look the way we wanted to. But then luckily, a coworker of mine was getting rid of his prop warehouse and retiring. So he said, if you could just throw me some cash to help me pay the last month's rent, do whatever you want to do in it. And except for the bathroom, don't get the bathroom dirty. So I said, okay. So we went in, and it was just, we could use whatever we wanted. We could rearrange it however we wanted. And my whole thought about it was anything that was the actual warehouse, I wanted it to feel like a living, breathing person. I wanted it to be reds and browns and fleshy. But anything dealing with the interrogation room, I wanted it to be cold and gray. because it's really just a figment of the mind. It's just made up. So we got really, really lucky with our location because there was already a built living room set there. I just had to make it look like it was kind of, been there for a while. But because he was a prop master for big horror movies, we had met on a Rob Zombie movie called Lords of Salem, and he'd done the Conjuring movies and Annabelle and Malignant that just came out. As a matter of fact, that was the last one he did. And they were shooting that while we were screwing up his warehouse. And so we ran amok. Like, we strategically placed props from all of those movies throughout our movie, but didn't feature them. They're just there if you really look. The Steadicam will kind of swing by it. And so that made it extra fun for us, kind of like little Easter eggs hidden there for real, true horror lovers. But the main concern for me was, really making sure that my Easter eggs were giving little hints that this warehouse was the same place as this interrogation room. And we had found things like 4 random heaters outside. And so I placed those in there. So if you look at the break room and then you look at the interrogation room, it has the same heater in the same spot. You just don't click into it. There are things that are the same throughout both. Because of course we were on very limited budget. So the really cool ideas I had, I couldn't afford to do. But that location was it was like a dream come true. It was originally written as a Griffin Electric house. And I'm like, nobody's going to understand, that's not universal enough for me to make a movie about, but everybody knows cool, creepy props. So it was just a really lucky find that I didn't have to fill an empty warehouse full of make-believe props. I could really utilize not only props, but props that came from all these iconic movies that I loved.
That's incredible. I loved the idea that the warehouse itself was sort of this entity. And I mean, again, speaking of extraliminal spaces, the whole interrogation taking place in a separate space was really interesting once the two kind of crashed together and you understood what was happening.
It was as many things that went wrong as we all know as filmmakers. Nothing goes perfect and nothing goes the way you think it's going to go. And so many things went wrong. Like, at one point I was on the side of the road in a truck just crying, like, what have I done with my life? And then the one thing that went like magic was that location. And when I walked in, the first thing I saw was there was a little bitty kitchen nook, like just kind of sitting there in front of a big like those massive workbenches with the saw that weighs a ton. And that's when I was like, this is how I can make the warehouse and the interrogation room the same, but I have to build it out and move that. It took 6 of us to move the table.
Wow.
And it's still actually in the short. We just shoved it to the other side of the wall because I'm like, well, it's a warehouse. That's as far as that's going to go, but I need these to be a room. And so some of those ideas weren't on the written page. They came organically as we saw that specific location. Because then it was an ambitious short. I'm like, oh, you want me to make walls bleed and you want me to make this the same room as that, but on what budget? Okay. But I feel like a true gift was that location.
That was a good find.
This Jinx, that really was what the prop, that's what the prop house was called, was Jinx Props. So it was kind of fun like that. I mean, everything there looked the way we shot it. Outside was all trashed out like that. We were just pulling things from there. So it was fun. I got lucky.
That's amazing.
I couldn't have been more perfect and I couldn't have asked for more. And we spent our whole Thanksgiving cleaning it out and, but it was really a joy. I owe him a lot. Not to mention.
When did you film that? Was it filmed during pandemic or post lockdown or pre-lockdown?
Things go wrong. We shot it and then we went into post. We shot it in December of 2019, like 2 days before Christmas we finished. And then we were going into post in February and then the pandemic hit. So then it sat there for a year because everybody we had booked to work on it, of course, everything shut down. I live in LA. All the facilities, Hollywood shut down. So it just sat there forever. While again, I was like, what the hell have I done with my life? I've just spent all my savings, and this film is just sitting and sitting and sitting for months. And then the only way I could get work was by working overseas. So then I left for 6 months. And that was then it just sitting. And again, I thank God for my editor, because I'm calling her from the Dominican Republic on a remote beach saying, you have to drive to Chino and pick up the drive from the visual effects guy and deliver it over here in Hollywood. Like, she did it. She would drive like 3 hours and get everything done. So,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, we shot it. I feel like I've been living processing for about 2 years now.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad that it's finally finished and that we were able to give it a home here.
Yeah, exciting that people really seem to like it. So
we were big fans.
Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you. Everybody worked so hard. My lead actor was so sick, and he was like, I don't care. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it. It was really
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Between the set and the lighting, the color, it was a feast for the eyes, really. Absolutely. Everywhere you look, there was something to pick up. It's great.
Oh, there were things like that little weird clown. I found that in the corner somewhere, and I was like, I like creepy clowns. And I was like, and Michael knew it, so that's why he kind of caught his
Said
eye.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, oh, that's kind of creepy. I like that.
A 3-minute oneer, so we had to rehearse that like for an hour or two. I had 8 hours of Steadicam time, and that was it. So we rehearsed it, and he was like, I know you put that there on purpose. I'm going to do something with this. And people don't realize that he played Gunther on Friends for years. And we don't understand.
Okay.
He has this whole other talent. He was like, I just want to do something that's not Gunther. I'm like, I'm going to make you cry.
He made Ross and Rachel break up.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to make you cry.
Okay.
So it was a good gift.
So I'm gonna hop over to Jason, and Jason, this is your third film
Yeah.
that we've played, and you keep sending us these wonderful. First, it was the 8mm, and then 8mm lookalike, and now we're back. Now we're in the, I guess, the 50s with this bathtub story. Yeah, how did you film this, and how did you accomplish that look?
Yeah, it started with a friendship with a local author here in northern Minnesota who had a short story, and he's like, well, if you can you do something with this? And so I took a peek at it, and we actually started filming the weekend right before lockdown. And then it just stopped. Corman festival, a quarantine film festival, and that's why I sent last year what I created after what we're doing this year. And so then when lockdown kind of released, and so I slowly started putting together, but it was a bunch of different locations filmed throughout 2000, and a lot of it was experimental because we didn't have I didn't have actors that we started with towards the end, so we kind of some of the things I used the tricks that I learned over lockdown was so like the voiceover. If you remember last time at the last film, all the voiceover was done over the phone and using voicemail, and so we were able to do kind of sound that feel, that gritty feel that we get with the narration. That's just a file from a voicemail. And then my parents we lost our studio that we were going to be shooting in their bathroom. We had a bathroom set all ready to go, and that fell through because of lockdown. So my parents were remodeling their house, and so our childhood tub was a big cast iron tub. So I literally hauled that 4 hours down to my friend's garage and set up his garage as a bathroom. We filmed like almost like a whole summer later, we filmed the bathroom scenes in the tub, and I actually got pulled over carrying a tub right after lockdown. I was cruising down, and the trooper was my first fan of the film, because she was like, "What do you have here?" And I'm like, "I'm actually filming a movie. This is a cast iron tub in the back." Gave me a warning and said, "I'm going to look you up." And yeah, it was an adventure in the production process, and then it was very experimental in the editing. And when where Netta was talking about basically life questioning, when during the process, like I've never questioned my life choices more when I was editing, because it's just like, this is impossible. And it's so drawn out. The excitement was literally gone a year prior. And here I am editing this film, and a lot of experimentation. Like, so using the 1950s as a reference for the film, but slowly turning into kind of a grindhouse feel. Maybe the Wizard of Oz kind of comes to mind, where it's like, as our main character, our associate professor, is questioning his life choices, ascending the staircase. It's kind of slowly turning into a color grindhouse grunge feeling. As the closer he's getting to the evil, the more the film is deteriorating. I kind of started thinking about that kind of stuff. It just started, basically, the whole thing is basically a setup for a joke setup with a punchline. But I started thinking more about, like, this associate professor who's just like, he's low on the totem pole at the Miskatonic University. His marriage he's married over his head. He's got this mother-in-law who wants him to have children, and he's just like, his quick this quick joke, I've tried to put in as much as I could, like, just to try to show his journey here through the editing. And it was challenging, but it was really fun. After said and done, it was fun.
Looking back on it, you're like, oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna say earlier, like, raise your hand if you've had that sitting on the side of the highway crying,
Oh yeah,
questioning your life choices.
oh my god.
Yeah.
I think that's relatable to almost everyone who's in a creative pursuit. So you mentioned how it goes from kind of like a 50s feel to kind of like the muted color grindhouse feel, which is interesting, because for me, like, the 1950s theme, everything is so buttoned up and repressed in the 1950s that, like, when weird stuff happens, it doesn't seem so out of place to me. And then the characters' reactions are always just kind of like, I can't really process that, so I'm going to just, we're just gonna not address it. We're just not gonna talk about that thing. So the I don't know, that for me it was funny. Like, well, good news is your mom's not staying.
Yeah, that whole just zero emotion towards what's going on, and just like, let's just shove it down completely and play it straight. And just, that whole thing of just that, I don't know, because at the same time he's dealing, because the real fears of this is his mother-in-law wants him to have babies. He brought his work sample home. He's a weirdness magnet, as he says. And it's just like, and here it's just like, every day, just grab a fire poker, walk up the stairs. That's like what he would do. I don't know.
But then also the what's the word? Not denial, but like, here he is, he's the associate professor. He brought home this experiment, probably without permission, left it in the bathroom, and things got all messed up. But he's just like, oh, well, whatever. He's not like anxious about getting in trouble or anything like that. It's just very like, well, I made an oopsie. My bad.
Yeah, we're gonna need some cleaner here. And back to work.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you finished it. And how do you feel about it now that it's all done?
Oh, questionable. It was fun, the process, and it has some great I mean some great feedback, and but I still think about it, and the whole COVID thing and the whole lockdown and the process it's taken. I feel like I've went through the stages of grief throughout it, and uh, acceptance at this point, that I'm glad I followed through till the end of it, and I'm ready to move on to another project. I think that's kind of where I'm at, but I can look back on it and say I'm really happy with where it turned out, and I can, yeah, I'm just happy. I'm just happy that we're here today. And then I'm able to be with some awesome filmmakers here who also have some just awesome work. I'm just happy that we're here today.
We are happy that you're here today too. All of you. So for Craig, with the creeping darkness, this is it has quite a scope, even though it all kind of takes place in the desert. There's the setup with the woman waking up, and then the flashback to how it all started, and then the ending. But what was the genesis for this story, and was it because you got freaked out camping in the desert?
No, not. It was funny part was actually I was watching a short film, and it started out with a young boy, and he's in the woods, and it's raining, he's trying to get a fire started, and I thought, like, oh, maybe this will be, the idea that this boy can't, get a fire started, keep like the, something at bay or whatever, and he got the fire started, and it was totally a different story, but I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun idea, maybe, idea like what happens if you're camping and the only thing to keep the monsters at bay was fire, but you couldn't do it because of the wood was wet or something like that. I live in Los Angeles. There are woods out here, but it's actually a lot more desert. They have easier access to that. So that it kind of flipped the idea is like, okay, well, people were camping, and the only thing to keep the monsters at bay was fire, but then there was, nothing to burn pretty much. So that's why the girl is kind of beginning of this film. She's like actually carrying firewood on her pack because she's taking what little bit of firewood they had at their campsite and trying to, get back to civilization, just burning whatever she can to stay alive. And so that's kind of the genesis of that story. And then, of course, like everybody knows, COVID happened. So we were trying to think of this movie we could shoot where we had all this free time. And that story was taking place all outdoors. So we're like, oh, okay, we can shoot this, with small crew and, open environment. We should be, pretty good at shit during the COVID time. So, yeah, like that was obviously, like everybody said, we ran a lot of challenges. Like most of the locations were like a few hours away. So we had to drive far and haul everything out there, the generators, everything we needed. So it was like a big challenge, and like everybody said, it never turned out the way you planned. Like we were supposed to be done like 2 weekends, that spread out over 2 months instead. So it was definitely dragged out, but it was a fun time. Like everybody said, I had the moments where you're like, oh god, this was a bad idea, but it worked out. We figured out ways to work around everything. So
Nice. And I like that we don't see that much of the creature.
yeah.
Did you have an idea in mind of what the entire thing looked like or what it was?
I wanted to be. Sorry, I was say it was actually hard because I was talking to makeup artists and like special effects people. I'm like, I want this thing to be very unhuman because I would say I love like Lovecraft kind of type of like cosmic terrors and stuff like that. So I wanted it to be kind of just a creature that was somewhere out, like deep out there in like the desert, possibly like in caverns, or we're not sure where it lives, but they have these creatures that live out there that we're not aware of, and occasionally come out and they eat, unlucky campers. So, and anyways, yeah, the idea was the creatures being just very unhuman, but it's obviously hard to do on a low budget to make something, a whole creature, that's going to be very monstrous. So like, okay, we can afford the arm. That's about all we can afford. So it's like, well, actually that was the arm, I'm not sure giving away trade secrets, but that used to be, I found a special effects artist, and I felt like, okay, do you have like a creature arm that maybe we can modify and turn it into something else, more unhuman? And so he had like an arm he used for like a cosplay, and so he took that arm, he modified it to make it kind of like weird creature arm you only see for a second. But yeah, like the idea of I always loved about the idea of like these cosmic terrors where they kind of remind you very quickly that we're still part of the food chain. And so it's like if you're out in the wild or something like that, you run across some sort of creature, they just see you as food. They don't see you as a person. So
Oh yeah, I like that a lot. So you shot at night and during the day.
yeah.
Did you? And you said it was a couple hours away, so I'm trying to imagine like how all of that worked, and then just being able to keep everyone, you know, alive out in the desert. Like, what time of year was it?
It was actually the hottest time of the year, like during a heat wave and stuff like that. So it was actually pretty miserable during the daytimes. So for like the first night of shooting, I actually had to like drive out to the campsite multiple trips. You know, we're a very small crew, so like I had to take like 3 or 4 trips out of my Jeep just hauling gear out there. And luckily there was an old couple and a campsite next to us. I'm like, hey, do you mind washing my gear? And it was like, there's nothing expensive, not camera gear, but like just camping gear, like little like, you know, coolers, all this, like little stuff we needed. But I dropped that stuff off and I had to keep an eye on for it. Actually, the old man at the around the fire was the old man that was camping next to us. I was like, hey, do you want to be an extra in our film? So he just had a great personality. So he became an extra real quick. But yeah, we just kept like hauling stuff out there. And then I stayed the night, camped out, you know, where night was the gear. And so eventually, yeah, the first night we wasn't too bad because there's higher altitude in the area we were filming that first night. So it actually kept it a little bit cooler. But then, yeah, all the other locations, particularly the dry lake bed, that was like way out there. And we had to get like a hotel room for a home base nearby. And that was a whole interesting experience. The first hotel room we got was some like very seedy hotel that turned into Alcatraz when the sun went down. And it was like, it was a very interesting experience. And to add to that, one of the days we did that where we brought everything out there, we were all excited and we were about to start filming. And we drove out to the dry lake bed and just barely sprinkled a little bit of like rain. And we got down there were park rangers putting up signs saying the dry lake bed is closed because apparently when the dry lake bed is wet, it's like you can break through it. And it's not so much they're worried about people getting hurt, they're worried about the dry lake bed being messed up. So like we literally hauled everybody out there, all our gear, everything, and they pretty much told us to turn around and head back. So we got a few pickup shots on the edges of the dry lake bed, but yeah, it's like it was definitely an experience.
My goodness. Well, it was wonderful in creating kind of that atmosphere of like, I'm out here all by myself. As far as the eye can see, there's no help coming. So that was maybe a painful location to have to shoot in, but it was very effective for your film.
It was a great learning experience like that. I definitely wouldn't want to do it again without a bigger budget, but at the same time, it's definitely learned a lot. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. I'm gonna hop over to Stephanie Begg with Echo Pines. And Stephanie, you are in Australia right now, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And you guys are are you in lockdown right now?
We are. It ends tomorrow. Okay. Actually.
Yay.
We've been in lockdown for 4 months now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, we were in lockdown last year as well, but then Delta hit and, you know, happens all over again. Yeah.
So when was your film filmed then?
We actually filmed it in 2019. So well before COVID ever existed in our minds, you know, like, so we got it all shot and edited by the end of 2019. And then we were in the final stages of post-production. We had one more day to finish post-production when COVID hit and the facility shut down. So like everyone else, it's a similar story. We just sat on it for like a year waiting for things to open up because, the facilities weren't available. Yeah, and I think we had just like a few shots to look at for the grade, you know, kind of thing. Like it was just like one teeny little thing that we had to get done. And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh. So is Echo Pine, is this a pilot for a larger?
It is, yeah.
It really feels.
I think it probably has that vibe. I think, you know, it's got that, like it's left unanswered. So yeah. I'm sorry, can you hear my husband making noise in the background? It got really noisy. He's making lunch.
Oh, I
It's
heard something.
lunchtime here. I'm in the future for you guys.
In the future, yeah.
Yeah, we're lunchtime tomorrow.
Excellent. I think
There's
it's
still
like
no
dessert
hovercraft,
time.
so it's very disappointing.
No, oh wait, there are watch phones now, finally.
Oh yeah.
We always used to say that the AT&T commercials was like, imagine making a phone call on your watch. It only took what, 35 years?
Yeah.
5 years
Exactly.
later. But so Echo Pines it's a woman police inspector who is given this case that ends up being very weird. And
Yeah. So it seems really like a stock standard missing persons, possibly the child's runaway type kind of case. And just weirder stuff sort of starts showing up, and there's a few sort of red herrings in there of like, who's this guy with the van? Is he or is he not involved in the disappearance? And then the kind of the idea is the further you get into the forest, the weirder stuff becomes, and it feels otherworldly the more you get deeper into the forest. Yeah.
So they stumble upon, they see the girl, and something happens, like there's almost a field around her that then cracks.
Yeah.
And she disappears. And it really kind of struck me, again, these extra liminal spaces that keep popping up in media right now. And I'm not sure what that's, maybe you have a guess about what that's all about, or what it's all about for you.
Well, I mean, I didn't even realize it, but a lot of my films deal with multiple versions of the same person, and sort of like a multiple universe type thing. And so kind of the idea is that the girl that we've come across is not actually the girl that's gone missing. It's another version of her.
Okay.
But that's, and the necklace is meant to sort of show that, and also because she chases one girl and she disappears from in front of her, and then there's another girl
like
that
behind her
creepily appears behind her. So so that's sort of it's meant to mess with your mind, to be like, what, who's and I originally we originally had in the script written that we were going to end it with you seeing the other side of the portal type thing that sucks the girl up. And then we changed the whole story because we couldn't actually afford to shoot what we had planned. So it was sort of this idea that Fiona, our detective, actually shoots through the portal, tries to shoot the portal, and she shoots another version of herself on the other side of the portal. And we sort of end it with Fiona dying in another world, another universe kind of thing. But then that completely, it's gone. That idea is completely gone. We couldn't get because we've got very strict laws in Australia with guns, and particularly with on film sets. So you need like a full safety officers and gun people and
armor.
It's a very expensive process to have some guns on a film set. So our police officers had no guns.
And I also liked the dynamic between the police inspector and her boss, who's asking her, what happened, and then her junior officer, I don't remember his name, but how he ostensibly saw what she saw, but then when he's out of the woods, he's like, nope, didn't see anything.
And it's about that. It's that she is actually the idea there was, I was exploring how how a person can, her character's meant to be completely rational, completely by the book, very logical, and she sees something, and so after she sees it, she doesn't actually have a visceral emotional reaction to it. She is quite calm through the whole thing. She's surprised but calm. And then she just very logically lays it out in her report and to her bosses. And her partner, who actually was more emotional and did have a sort of, more, it freaked him out way more than it freaked her out. He's like, no, I'm not saying I saw that, because people will think I'm crazy. And that sort of, that I think that playing, that's sort of what we were playing with and exploring there, is that, you know, the person who was actually sane was the one whose mental health was called into question, in a way.
I also enjoyed that. I also really liked that rather than entertain the idea that she needed mental health, like to see a therapist or to have an evaluation or whatever, she's just like, nope, not doing that, and then just gets up and walks out, because it's a very man thing to do, I think, in these kinds of movies, these kinds of films where the hero is kind of like, I know what I saw, and you're not gonna convince me that I'm crazy.
Exactly. And then at the end she goes back to the forest, and even though you know, the idea is she loses her job, she quits, and but she still she's still in there trying to figure out what happened.
Okay. And are you developing more episodes of this, or trying to
so we're hoping to turn it into a bigger series, you know, and that this is kind of like I want to say a prequel, but it was actually made before the series, so it's just like in sequence. You know? So the idea is that this is a setup for we're going to come back to her 10 years later, when the girl shows up again, but she's now in her early 20s. And she actually gets called in by her former colleagues to come help solve the case again. And she's now teaching at the university forensic science rather than working. So that's the plan for a TV series. So we're going to see more, and it's going to get more and more. I think as we get deeper into it, it'll get more complex with many worlds and many. The further we get into the forest, the weirder it's going to get.
Right. There's a trend of these kind of not Twin Peaksy, but sort of weird sci-fi horror shows that I like. I like this trend. So now I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to see if you're able to. I hope that you're able to make more.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of this sort of stuff in Australia. You know, like we're not known for having pine forests and sort of alpine regions. You know, we're very bush and desert sort of people, and you know, but we do have those areas. But you know, I've always loved those shows. Like I'm very influenced by the X-Files and, you know, Twin Peaks, and you know, they were references for this. But there's a fantastic Australian show that's set in Tasmania called The Kettering Incident, that it also draws on this sort of stuff, and it's very spooky. You know, so it would be playing on, you know, those sorts of Australian ideas.
Through Netflix, we got a series called Black Spot, about a French region in the Alps or the Pyrenees that doesn't get, like, it's a weird dead spot in cell signal and satellite and everything, and like weird stuff happens. So it's and it's also a female detective that's there.
Excellent. I'll have to check that out. I think I've heard of it, but yeah. And we also, Dark was a big influence as well. If you've seen Dark, I think it's on Netflix as well, and it's great German show. Yeah, fantastic.
Nice. Well, excellent. Now I gotta go watch all of your films again for the sixth time.
It's great hearing everyone, because I really want to go back and watch everything again now that I've heard the behind the scenes stuff. You know,
like I need to go
look
spot
after that heater.
I know. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, Well, gosh, do you guys have questions for each other? I know I asked you a lot of questions. If you guys have questions for each other, please feel free. Otherwise,
A general question for everybody that they can answer. But what was the biggest challenge you had? I mean, it's like 10 challenges.
Yeah.
But
For me, it was the planning, because like everything had to be pre-planned like perfectly, because we're going out to a location where we couldn't just turn around, drive back 2 hours to grab something and drive back, 2 hours to come back. So it's like planning everything was like very stressful. You had to make sure like every little detail was taken care of. Like even like the knife she's trying to pulling out had to be like dulled so that way it's not worried about stabbing somebody. Like, all these little details need to be figured out well in advance, and that was probably like the most stressful thing, trying to make sure everything was perfect. We got there. But it's kind of true, I guess, for most films. Yeah.
right. But I think in your case, you had such a specific location and such a specific time frame. It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it was like I'd not worked with the technology we used for the green screen, which we used a blue screen for the special effects. And we had done a lot of planning, and we planned the special effects really carefully. And the idea is that it's meant to sort of be a shattering mirror sort of effect combined with like a spider web. So it's meant to sort of be like a shattered mirror, but also feel organic, like an organic matter. And we had to do this 360 shot with a 360 camera for the VFX, so that they could get the reflections of the forest in the shadow effect. And we had to go reshoot it the next day, because like I forgot. Well, first of all, at one point I totally forgot to get the shot that we needed, and I was like the next day. Luckily, we were still shooting in the forest, but we only had like 2-3 days there, so it was like, oh no, I miss that. Oh, I got to go back and shoot this. But it was also, I'd not worked with that, and so I was lucky that I had people around me who knew what to do, but I'd never actually worked with that technology, and it was trying to figure out the continuity of it all was really challenging, I think, for me. I mean, when you said what was the most challenging, I was like, it's like a million things just pile up on you. It's like a million tiny things when you're making a film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then like, I don't know, it was just all stressful. I compare it to like having a baby, it's like it's this very stressful period, and then a year later you've forgotten and you go, I want to make another film.
I think Craig's film was described as you're out there all alone and nobody's going to come help you. That's like filmmaking.
That's totally like filmmaking.
When she said that, I was like, yep. And then that's why we're all here right now.
Yeah.
I think our biggest challenge was like this idea initially originated like, what if something terrible was like caught in this time loop and you had to go through it over and over again, or other people had to go through it over and over again. We're like, yeah, like falling down the stairs, that's terrible. And then we went into lockdown and we're like, okay, so how do we make that happen and look real, but all we have is real stairs in this like tiny little corridor? And it was like, okay, we have to make this look painful without it actually breaking my neck. And that was an uphill battle, but it was interesting. It really pushed us to our creative limits. And maybe there was a few bruises in there too along the way.
I feel like what you were talking about was what I experienced on mine was having to constantly think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Be like, oh, okay, well, that's not going to happen, or that's not going to work, or that didn't go as intended. So now what? But having to do it within 5 minutes to keep going.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like putting out fires, right? Spot fires
all the time.
Yeah.
And Jason?
I think mine besides everything that we've already talked about, just that I think for me it was because mine really was a budget of pocket lint and verbal commitments for anybody working on anything or actors. And I think the amount of time, I've never, I usually like to get something done very fast, and move on to the next. And having something sit for so long was just a new mental adventure. Let's just put it that way. that uh, it, that was really challenging, having something sit in different parts of production, different parts of post, and when I wanted to do something I couldn't, so that was frustrating. But then when I could do something, maybe where my mind was during production wasn't the same mind that I had during months later or almost a year later. It was that was challenging. I believe that I'm a better filmmaker for it, but that was something that I don't really ever want to do again if I can help it.
Agreed. I'm with you. That was a really big challenge for me, was that saying, okay, you have all the footage. Here's our time frame. Oh wait, everything's shut down. Okay. How about now? How about now? And you're just constantly, trying to find the pace of how to finish.
It's kind of how all of last year felt to us. Was like there was no set time limit on anything, and then when things did start to open up a little bit, there was no map of how it was supposed to go, and your films were delayed. Like our film festivals, I think we were delayed with our film festivals, and like we still managed to get them done, but it's a lot of little things that pile up on you. So even though I'm not making a film, I can empathize with the stop-start unsure nature of like when is this going to be done? When am I going to know enough to be able to plan to be able to finish it?
When nobody knows, like it's just everybody's in the dark.
Definitely uncharted waters.
Can I ask then, what was the best thing? I think was that harder. Or like, what was the thing about doing it that was just magic?
Just becoming resourceful. I mean, our movie didn't really need a lot of setting or whatnot, but I'm sure we all just learned how to be a lot more resourceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just create a fulfillment for me. The films and the stories that I like to tell, they're only to balance out the other half of my brain that is my 9 to 5, or doing creating junk mail and social media artwork. I can create weird stories, or I can tell fantastic tales, and no matter how we get that done, it just brings peace to me, brings I don't know, makes me feel whole. And so no matter how we did it, that's what the best thing that came out of it for me.
Yeah, I think that's like finishing it, like actually getting it done, and it's now in a festival. Yeah, I think like I had some great moments. Like we did this. We waited all. We had a crane. We got this crane, and we had this plan for this shot, and we did these shots with this crane, and with the very last thing we did, and we were running out of time, we're like, let's get the crane shot because we want a sunset crane shot, and it didn't make it into the film. Like we got into the edit, and it was like, oh no, this doesn't make sense. This shot doesn't make sense at all. Luckily it was a friend's crane, so we didn't have to pay for it, but it was, that sort of thing of like the thrill of being on set and being like, this shot, and it's a beautiful shot, like this shot is spectacular and it's never going to see the light of day. Like no one's going to see it, because it just didn't fit with the tone of the story. It didn't fit with, you know, the actual storyline. It was like, hey, why is the car driving in that direction? That doesn't make sense, you know, sort of thing. But having moments like that on set, like the shot in the car when they're driving into the forest, that was sort of made up at the time because we were going to do like single shots of them each in the car. And then we got into the back of the car and realized we could do this really cool sort of somewhat silhouetted, eerie shot of the two of them. And, you know, just figuring that stuff out on set and going, oh, wow, that's really exciting that you can create something artistic in the moment that you hadn't planned for. You know, I think that's one of the best things about filmmaking.
Nice little surprises.
Yeah.
I'd say to add on to all that, kind of saying getting stuff done, sometimes just doing it. Like a lot of my friends, we all came out here and we all wanted to be filmmakers, but you get stuck, you know, doing other stuff in life. It's hard to do your own creative work. So once you start actually just making something, even just low budget, everybody's just super excited to be on set, and everybody's either lighting up when you're just, you know, seeing the footage, especially when a shot comes out really good, and everybody kind of gets around the monitor and looks at it, the shot, and everybody's excited. So it's really good to feel like you dreamed about making film, and even if it's just low budget, you're finally making that dream come true. So, and not just for you, but the whole crew, like they all want to be a part of that. So that's really always I think it's probably the best part for me. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we should end on that high note. And I'll let you guys all go. But before we go, just tell the audience where they can find more about the movie. And if you have any social media where they can find out more about your projects. Go ahead, Renetta.
Instagram, we are processing the film. And Facebook is also processing the film. And then we got really creative on Twitter, and we're processing film.
Jason.
You can find me on Facebook or Instagram as Jason Ewert, and also on Instagram as Mysteries Uncovered is the new project show that's in development right now. We have working on a pilot, getting some good getting into some festivals with our script and stuff like that. So Mysteries Uncovered.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And Ricky and Tanya?
You can find us on Instagram at Garthy Films. And it's a work in progress, but it's happening.
There, okay. Craig, how about you?
You can find me on Instagram at Craig, KRAIG _Krug, KRUEGG. It's probably more complicated than it needs to be. And then we actually just wrapped our newest short film, so that should be coming out soon. It's called Final Pickup. So hopefully we'll be able to send that to festivals very soon.
Excellent. And Stephanie, where can people find out about Echo Pines?
We've got a Facebook page and Instagram, which are both called Echo Pines Film. Either Echo Pines or Echo Pines the Film. I know I should know, shouldn't I? Because I'm the one who uploads the content. Yeah, and then I'm Stephanie Begg for Instagram and Miss Mac Films on Twitter. But yeah, the Echo Pines Film Instagram and Facebook page is where all the info is at the moment. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for being here with your amazing films. Thanks for joining us in the live Q&A. This is going to be recorded, so people watching in the future will be able to watch it as well. And with that, I'm going to bid you all good night and hope that you stay for The Fall of Usher, which is making its world premiere. Well, it made its world premiere last weekend, but it's making its world premiere online here. And we'll be talking with director Brian Cunningham after that. And then tomorrow there's a whole day of more of films. So we hope to see you then. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.